so much I can talk about, especially when it comes to just my overall, I guess, experience being in the military.
As long as you love me.
It's as good as it's gonna get. Gonna do something a little different today. Thought I would talk about the military. Whew, oh man. There's honestly so much I can talk about, especially when it comes to just my overall, I guess, experience being in the military, especially as like a woman, as a mother, especially a single mother, because when I tell you it's a whole different kind of ballpark, or like just a different, it's a different experience when you start adding, other family members and dependents into the mix. And honestly, I can say, like, it definitely changes you. The experience that you thought you were going to have, or the experience that maybe in your mind's eye when you first joined, as just a single soldier, no kids, no family or anything like that, the vision that you thought you were going to have, or the career path that you thought maybe you were going to take, becomes two very different paths, very different things, and it's a different reality, and it's definitely a different thing to like. Today I'm doing something, like I said, totally completely different. I thought I would start a series, or try to start a series. I guess we'll see how this, takes off. Loosely titled Tales from the Trenches. This coming February, I'll have been in for 11 years. And it's just, I've had, I guess, two very different experiences. The experience I kind of had, 2013 to 2015, before I found out I was pregnant. And then, of course, my experience from, postpartum after giving birth to my daughter and moving forward. And I think that, it's something that's definitely, like, worth talking about. I have knowledge and things that, if my experience can help you, especially if you're deciding if you want to stay in because you just had a kid, or maybe you have kids and you're thinking of joining, like, on the National Guard Reserve side, or you're a guardsman and a reservist and you want to go active duty. While I have never spent more than probably a year or so on active at any given time, just because I am a reservist, I do have some experience being active duty because I deployed from 2019 to 2020. I joined the Army officially February 5th, 2013. I enlisted in Montgomery, Alabama, because I was going to school at the University of Alabama at the time when I was going through all of this. And I was, really like a struggling college kid. I wasn't doing the best in school. I wasn't sure of, the direction I wanted things in my life to go. I didn't understand some things about myself. And I was just very lost, so I decided, hey, what the heck, why not? Like, people join the military either to straighten their life out, change their life, or just find themselves. And I happened to find myself, or at least find out, like, more of who I was, joining. And it ended up being probably, honestly, one of, like, the best decisions of my life. Obviously, I did not have Riley then when I joined. So, again, it was a very different experience. I went off to basic. I didn't have the BAH with a dependent. I only had about, like, 45, maybe 50 college credits. So, like, I went in as an E2. And I was supposed to get, like, promoted to PFC, but my updated transcripts, like, didn't make it to Fort Jackson, South Carolina in time as I was in processing. So I ended up only getting promoted to E2, but that's fine. But, again, it was a different experience. It was one that I think very much I needed for me. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't doing all that well in school. I had declared a major that had kind of played a decision into what I was doing with the Army. Like, I went in as a 25 uniform, which is a signal system support specialist, and that's basically like a glorified multi-purpose IT guy. You kind of learn a little bit about everything when it comes to all the different communication systems and different signal systems that the Army has, and you're expected to know enough that if a unit you're attached to doesn't have any one particular signal MOS, you can go in and set things up and help them out and help them, like, you know, maintain comms and have functioning communications across, like, you know, their scope, their AO, within their unit, whatever it is. And like I said, I was single. I had like an on again, off again situation with a boyfriend that I had broken up with like December of 2012, and we were in some weird talking phase where we thought maybe we'd get back together. If there's nothing that really makes you kind of realize that, like, you are a confused young adult, not realizing that you're in just a really not very good relationship, joining the military is probably, honestly, it snaps you out of that real fast because you don't have much time to, like, focus on that stuff. And to be honest, when I started, I guess, really starting to figure out just how tough I was, just how strong of an individual I actually was, and was having a lot of things put into perspective for me, as a 21-year-old, you know, young lady, realizing that I was kind of allowing myself to be treated in a way that I knew better. And it's not that the person that I was seeing on and off again or having this, like, conflicting relationship with was, like, a bad person. We just weren't compatible. Like, we were definitely very good friends, but, like, we weren't compatible, you know, as anything more than that. And unfortunately, it took kind of a long time for us to figure it out. But, like, you know, there's a lot of kind of drama and trauma for both of us because we probably both played our own roles in just things that we kind of, petty things that we did back and forth on and off to each other, because we weren't compatible in a serious relationship, and we just couldn't seem to figure it out. The Army, as a way to just kind of get a sense of clairvoyance and figure my shit out, so to speak. And honestly, like I said, it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. Some of the people that I met at Basic and, like, AIT, I still talk to. Like, you just, basic training in AIT isn't really the trauma bond, but it is kind of in some ways high stress, or at least basic is a little bit high stress. I went to Fort Jackson, so I felt like, yeah, it was stressful, but it wasn't as bad as, like, say, Fort Benning or, like, Fort Sill, where it's a lot of, like, OSIT units and mostly, like, combat arms is there. So, like, I definitely don't think my basic experience was anything that I would say, like, trauma bonded me to people from my platoon, but I still talk to some people from my platoon, and my unit in general, and, you know, that, again, but it's just because you experience a situation where little high stress, you're all stuck with each other. You know, it was definitely, I think, something that I needed. Like, it was just good for me. Now, some of you are probably wondering, well, like, that's great, Tori, but, you know, obviously you've started kind of building your brand off of the fact that you are a single mom, so how does that work? And I promise, I'm getting to it, I promise. I got a concussion at the end of basic training, and I knew it was a concussion because I fell head first into, like, a foxhole. And when I say a foxhole, it was a hole. It was only supposed to be, like, a hasty fighting position, something that you can, like, lay down in, pick up your weapon, and, like, you know, fire at the enemy on or whatever. But some of the guys in my platoon, for whatever reason, decided they wanted to turn their fighting positions into, like, a giant ditch, like a foxhole, regardless of the fact that that meant that they were going to have to, like, you know, bust their heinies to fill all that dirt in when we left the field. And they didn't mark with chem lights or anything. So, per the little Army's little blue book, if you're digging a fighting position and you're, like, in a enclosed, like, fob or, like, you know, field environment, you're supposed to still mark somehow that there's a giant freaking hole, so that if it's nighttime and people are moving in low light or like low visibility situations, you can still kind of see or tell that there's something there, so you don't fall in it. And they didn't do that. What happened was, hole was not marked. Stupid little PV2 Adams, me, kind of late for talk duty. I had to go sit by the radio. So I'm running full speed, M4, Kevlar, full kit. I had lost my flashlight earlier in the day, walking across a makeshift tree bridge over a creek during a rock march, just during tactical movement exercise. I slipped and I fell. I did that a lot at basic. I fell off of things a lot. It explains much more about me, once you realize it. And didn't see the hole. It was dark. Didn't have a light because I lost it, right? Running full speed. I come up over the lip, step, realize there's nothing, and right into the hole. And you can hear the thud of everything just hitting me in the head and the face as I slam into the dirt, and my little leggies just like this in the air still, apparently, not realizing. And then I kind of stopped moving for a second. I guess I knocked myself out a little bit, and then I popped back up, and I was like, I'm okay. What happened? So my head and neck are killing me, instantly. I already knew I'd done, you done effed up, AA Ron. We still continue on our way to the talk, and obviously my drill sergeants are like, yeah, what the hell, you're late. So then they're start pushing, because basic, you have to have some kind of punishment, right? And the drill and that's what the drill sergeants know. So apparently my eyes weren't focusing or tracking. So they were like, Adams, what the hell? What's going on? And I was like, drill sergeant, I don't feel so good. I hit my head. And they're like, great. So now that's you have to start, concussion protocol. They send me back. They keep me in the talk for 6 hours. They send me back to my fighting position where we're supposed to be pulling security. Only I'm sitting up, right? And they don't have us doing anything. They've got my battle buddy just staring at me, monitoring me, right? Making sure that I don't lose consciousness or I don't whatever. And the next day they're like, okay, you're going to the TMC, which is the Troop Medical Clinic, because you're so close to the end of this exercise that if something was seriously wrong with me, they potentially would have to hold me over and recycle me and wait for whatever the issue was to heal. So I explained the situation to the TMC, all the medics, the doctors there, and in true Army form, in true military form, the way they helped me was, here's some Tylenol, here's some water, you didn't hit your head, you sprained your shoulder and your neck, but you're going to be fine. Mind you, my head hurts, right? The light is hurting my eyes. Obviously something is probably not right. So I know it's a concussion. They know it's a concussion, but I was less than a week out from graduating. They were not going to hold my ass over for 9.5 weeks, waiting for another training class to get me get to Victory Forge for me to just go in and finish the exercise. They were like, we're not doing that. Plus, when you're a reservist or a guardsman, your unit or the guard or the reserves will only issue out so much money under your name for your training, for your active duty time. So your reserve unit or your guard unit doesn't want to wait for you to an additional 9.5 for an additional however many weeks. If you're this long-term holdover, it starts becoming a problem. So you may run out of money or whatever. And while I wouldn't have minded being a holdover, because at that time, like I said, single, no kids, it's not like I had a dependent or anyone to get back to. I also had college. If I had stayed any longer than my initial training dates, I ran the risk then of not finishing my training in time to be able to go back to Alabama for the spring. And since at the time I still thought I wanted to be in college and all of that, that was a no-go. So I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Sprained neck, sprained shoulder. Got it. You got it, dude. Roger that. Give me my Tylenol. Give me my naproxen. And it wasn't the first time I got hurt at basic either. Like I said, remember earlier, I fall a lot. I had fallen or did something to myself much earlier in my training cycle. Clumsy and accident prone. Anyone who knows me in real life, like, also knows, very clumsy. Both the Army and real life, like, just is what it is. So basic and AIT were kind of like rough for me because I just had a lot of, I just had some, injuries and stuff, and because we never deal with the concussion at basic, I went on to AIT, and basically got hit in the head again, and then my concussion became like a mild TBI, so it's just, it's been a lot, right, and that kind of, in some ways, sums up at least the first year or so of me being in the military. I enlisted in February of 2013. I shipped for basic May of 2013. I graduated AIT like right before Thanksgiving 2013. And in the first 6 months to a year, I spent most of it just dealing with a concussion and like sustaining a TBI, like the repercussions of that. But what I had learned through all of it, even though it was definitely like not fun, going through all that and experiencing just like the chronic head pain and all the other kind of things that just go with sustaining a head injury, I really loved the Army. I loved it. Like it was what I needed at the time, and it was something that I didn't realize that even like to this day, how much like I need it. Parenting, which is one of like the hardest, complicated jobs with like biggest joy. The Army is like my identity too, and I didn't realize like at the time, because like I said, I didn't have a kid then, that it's like two competing identities, and both are so important. And both are so rewarding, but at that time, I didn't realize just like I needed it. Like it healed me and kind of helped me in ways that I didn't think it was like possible, and then it became possible, and I realized like I've definitely brought into the Kool-Aid. I like this. This is phenomenal. I can't believe like it took me this long to realize that like that this was for me. It was just life-changing. Really life-changing. It was very rewarding, very fulfilling. And I didn't think anything could make that experience like better until I realized I was pregnant. Trying to adjust back to college. I really struggled adjusting back to being in college. Coming from basic, so that was also another thing that really started making me realize like, okay, I don't know, school's probably not for me, to be honest, but the Army is my surefire thing. It's the thing I know I'm good at. 2015 rolls around, and St. Patrick's Day 2015, I find out I'm pregnant. And honestly, like at the time, it wasn't even the oh crap, now I have to tell my parents, because I wasn't married. I was just dating the guy, but we weren't. I thought we were more serious than we were. Turns out, we weren't. And on top of like the oh crap, I have to tell my parents, it was also the oh crap, I have to tell the Army. Like my chain of command needs to know, because when there's regulations and rules in place when you're pregnant. There's certain things you like obviously can't do. Just like on the civilian side, things get limited. Well, in the military, things get limited too. It also just changes like the trajectory of things, because you no longer just have to worry about yourself. You've got this whole tiny human you're growing, and this whole other person now that your civilian and military careers and lives and decisions for both really affects this little person. The thought at the time, anyway, it wasn't like what great civilian job can I get to sustain this life. It was how can I go active duty or get AGR or get some kind of full-time position with the Army so I can provide for this child. Even though like everyone was saying, hey, it's really not as easy as you think to switch components, especially if there's like there's a baby or a kid involved, because again, single parent. The Army has rules and regulations. Army has rules and regulations that apply for all of this. And in the comments and like or description box, guys. Like, I will link some of the Army regulations and like stuff down there if you want to like look them up if you're thinking of joining, things of that nature. I mean, my tracks sense essentially, because I was like, oh dang, you're right.
Where was I? Oh yeah. So I had my daughter, 2015. And not much changed in regards to like my love for the Army, and especially when she was like young and little, and it was definitely like the more stressful time of, you know, like a newborn and infancy stage, like the small like reprieve from being a single parent that going off and going to drill kind of gave me, like, was nice. Like, I always kind of viewed, and even still I view when I have drill as kind of like a nice reset from parenting duties, as just like a way for perspective, because I think that is like a big issue if you're a single mom or a single dad or solo parenting for any reason. The feeling of burnout is real. And I will say this too, like, being a single parent in the Army, like, it absolutely like completely changes. Like I said, the Army has like regulations for just about everything, and one of the big regulations is like the ones for single parents, because you have to have this thing called what's called a family care plan, and those are like so critical to have. They're so critical to use and follow, because if you don't have one, or you don't have a good one, or one that can't readily be put in place, like, the Army can chapter you out. I think it falls under Chapter 9, which is pregnancy and failure to have a family care plan for single parents. And there have been a few times where that's been put to test. I went to Japan shortly after my daughter was born for an annual training. Then I immediately went to Fort Bliss for another annual training. Any of like any kind of annual training where you're on like an active status, you know, the family care plan is super necessary to have and make sure it's current and updated. And then of course, it was really put to the test in 2019, 2020 when I deployed, because I was brought up Title 10 orders on active duty, or Title 10, Title 32, bringing me from a reserve status to active duty, and everything. I had like the will, I had a family care plan, because it was overseas and it was a deployment. And honestly, I think that was really the moment too when I really started to realize, I think, my career path and what I wanted, or what I thought I wanted, changed. In general, I internalize a lot. Like, I'm really good at hiding my thoughts, my feelings. I'm really good at compartmentalizing, and a lot of, especially if you're a parent and you're, you know, I'm away with the military doing Army stuff, it's a lot of compartmentalizing. It's a lot of hiding parts of yourself. And I will say too, like, even just as when I was a single woman being in the Army, like my first 2 years, it still was a lot of hiding yourself. So when I was deployed, like, the lifestyle of being active duty, while the money was nice and I thought it was what I wanted, the more time I spent away from Riley, like, the more I was kind of realizing, like, I am content in my reserve role. I'm content with, you know, being, you know, both that soldier and a mom. Parenthood changes you. It changes your objectives, your perspectives, your goals. And I didn't fully realize, I think, like, until being deployed, that it's really hard. Being a single mom in general is challenging, and if you don't have a great support system and people who care about you, and people either in your family or outside of your family willing to step in and help you do what you got to do to, like, you know, raise this kid and survive, it's even more hard if you don't have all that. And being a single mom in the military, like, to all my active duty single mamas out there, or single dads, who are doing the single parent game and being in the military, freaking rock stars. I don't know how you do it, because it takes a lot of coordination with your command. It takes a lot of coordination with like your relatives if they're on the family care plan. Because I remember it was Christmas time and I had gotten a like video text message from my dad, and it was a video of Riley saying she got a bike for Christmas, and then she saw like her gift from me, which was like one of those Amazon Fire Kindle tablet stick things, and it was just like the little face of, oh, thank you, mommy, I love you, I miss you, come home. Like, I lost it. I spent the entire day crying. Anytime anyone like said Merry Christmas or anything, just tears. I was wrecked, because I was missing like big holidays. My daughter turned 4 and I wasn't home. I missed like 9 months of her life. Like, I left and she was, 3.5. I came home and she was gonna be turning 5, that following November. I missed a lot. You miss a lot, and you kind of realize it's something that you don't get. It's the time you don't get back. The finding balance as a mother and a soldier it's hard, and you eventually have to like become, I think, content knowing that you're doing the best you can, and you always have to like kind of make the best decision for your family, and it's just it's a lot, but it's worth it. And so if you're considering doing this, like, I'd do it. Like, if I had to do it all over again, I'd still do it. Like, I love being a mom, and I love being a soldier, and I don't think it's an either or a one or the other. I think it's a both and. You can be both. It just takes a lot of work, and people, you'll get through it, and it's pretty, I don't know, it's worth it to me. So if you have any more questions or comments, or you want to know more about like the process for joining the military, or my experience as a mom, or just like I said, my overall military experience, I am going to hopefully try to make this a series. Like I said, right now I'm titling it Tales from the Trenches. This one probably wasn't really so much of like tales so much as it was like trenches, but I'm still figuring it out. We're all just figuring it out, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. Bye, guys.